In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being audio-video recorded on Zoom. The agenda topics which may be discussed at the meeting and those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for a discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. The Zoom ID. The Zoom ID is 884-111-57038. And I know we have one member who's still trying to sign in. So will be joining us later. Does anyone have, and just for everyone's edification, our agent is on vacation this week and will not be participating in the meeting. May have some impact on our discussions tonight, you know, when we don't have information that only he has access. I have to admit another person. Are there any public comments from members of the commission? Is there any public comment from members of the public? If so, please raise your hand. To raise your hand, at the bottom of your screen, there should be a reactions panel. And if you click in the reactions panel, there should be a raised hand feature button there, or it may be at the bottom of the participant list. You know, you'll find in one of those two places, depending upon the version of Zoom you have. Seeing no public comment, I'd like to welcome our two brand new members, Patty Adams and Mike LaRouche, to their first meeting of the Conservation Commission.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you.
Matt sent the minutes of the last meeting out to the members. I look, there's some Scribner's errors, but I don't really see any major flaws in them. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes or
Hey,
to
Bob,
amend?
you're going to do attendance?
Ken? Rich, did you have a comment?
Yeah, well, you're going to do attendance?
Oh, Richard, thank you so much. I need the former chairman to keep me on the straight and narrow. I don't know what I'd do without him. I'm Bob, Chair. Patty Adams.
Here.
Thank you, Patty. Richard Bursch.
Present.
Katie Childs.
Here.
Jack Rabbit's having computer problems and trying to sign in. Jeff Viviano does not expect to be able to join us until later. Mike LaRouche.
Here.
And everybody. All right. The first thing on our agenda tonight is to review the draft Renault and Hollis Road forest cutting plan. And I do not see Gary Goldrup here, but I still would like, ooh, that reminds me. I still would like to review the plans.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, you are here.
Hi, yes. Hi, Bob. Hi, members.
Hi, Gary.
Hi, how are you?
Marvelous.
Good. Can you see me?
One
Yeah.
second.
Okay.
I just. All right, you are here. So
I am. Yes, sir.
You must.
One more time. I didn't catch that.
Oh, I see. You're right there looking at me. I didn't recognize you.
Well, I shaved.
All right. Oh, that must be it.
Yeah, I got to get rid of the beard.
All right. So we have the two cutting plans. why don't we start with the cutting plan for, do a screen share. And first of all, I got to call up the cutting plan, July 7th. Sorry, I didn't see you there, Gary.
Oh, no worries.
All right, so let's share my screen here, if I can figure out how to do that. So. Where is it? Minutes. I don't see it. Oops. What are people looking at on screen share now?
A plot.
Now you got the Haas lot.
Okay, so we're gonna start with the Hollis Road or Haas lot. And so Gary, just to tell us about this plan.
Sure. So both of the harvesting projects follow the forest stewardship plans that we prepared over a year ago. We had a pre-site walk at the Haas and just talked about the patch cutting for bird habitat. And on this map, you'll see the ST1 and the ST2 combined. They're approximately 3.5 acres of patch clear cuts for bird habitat enhancement. And the decision was made not to thin anything outside of the patch cut areas. So there would be no thinning at this time on the interior of the forest land between the two patch cuts. The one requested landing was going to be through the water department. And I had some concerns about that, where you've got brand new pavement. It looks like the terrain is going to make it a little difficult to get equipment up there. So I think we need to review that. But on the map, you can see the landing site when I went out there and found the best spot that I felt equipment could be accessed to. But there's got to be some type of access agreement with the water department in order to facilitate a landing at that particular location. But if you have any questions other than what I've talked about, shoot away.
I would confirm that I with the superintendent of the water district yesterday, or actually I texted with him, and he confirmed that the water district is okay with us accessing the site through their property.
Fantastic. That'd be great. I think it's going to be just a little challenge on the grade. We might have to look at that as you come off the pavement and get up to that flat spot up there on the west side of the parking lot.
Okay.
Yep.
I would note for the members of the public that another member, Jack Rabbit, has joined the meeting. I sent everybody an email on the commission, and I also copied you on it, Gary, just about 1 minute ago. My suggestion is that we identify on the Chase Road Renault cutting plan, which we're not discussing now. Let's see. Identify on each cutting plan the skid trails that are be left clear of debris by the contractor at the end of the project as trails for public. So I'm hoping we can do that is part of the cutting plan.
Sure.
Identifying each cutting plan, the estimated width of the skid trails. To be frank, I was stunned by the width of the skid trails when we cut the small town forest. We did that Hemlock thing. I never imagined that the skid trails, some places 120 feet wide. And but those are my comments, my own comments on the Hawes or Hollis Road cutting plan. Does any other members have any comments on the Hawes or Hollis Road cutting plan? Does
Yeah, and
anybody-
as you can see, Bob, the skid trails right there, the main trails, there's really only two of them.
Yep.
Oh, those are the two pink flag, and they're actually flagged out there currently in pink. So it's basically two access points to the two areas of harvest. And it would be a whole tree. You're pulling the whole top, so you do have to realize that you're taking out a tree with a canopy. It's fairly wide, some of those tops, those oak tops. So they're not going to be narrow. There's got to be some consideration for the width of those tops.
So Gary, what do you estimate the biggest, width of these treetops are going to be?
Well, we can break down the canopy a little bit on each tree, have them slash up the top. It's a little bit more work, but I would allocate 25, 30 feet in width. They're going to have some bump trees that they can use. We can leave, even if they get banged up. So look at about 25, 30 feet.
I mean, speaking for myself, just personally, I'd be, okay with a width greater than that, if it's gonna require more work to make them narrower, but we had skid trails on the small town forest that were just, they weren't trails, they were fields. I just want us to be sure. Richard Birch has his hand up. Richard Birch. And you can unmute yourself, Rich. I haven't got muting under control.
Beautiful. Thanks, Bob. One other thing that we had talked about preliminarily was updating the trail access off of the logging road to the existing parking space for the butterfly habitat. Because that's the main parking area, just to make sure that we have good access from the parking area off to the trails that go out through the property.
And so how would that impact the forest cutting plan, Rich?
We had talked about having that as one of the parts of the cutting contract itself. And I believe we had talked with Gary a little bit about that, just having the trail upgraded.
Which
That's
lot are
part
we
of-
on here, Rich? Is this the
Hawes.
Hawes lot?
Yep.
Okay, so you want to incorporate what? I missed that.
Just upgrading the trail from the existing parking area where the butterfly habitat is
Okay,
into where it intersects with the new skid trail that's getting put in.
okay. Yeah, we can do that.
Just a little improvement that helps the access, because that's our public access there off of Hollis.
Mhm.
And we didn't want to enter through there with the forest cutting equipment, just because it was really going to tear that area up, and it's pretty well set as a nice parking area. So that's why we're trying to come in through the water district property in the back,
Sure.
just to maintain that access as it is today.
So you just likes to see an additional trail improvement on that little spur between the trail and the.
Exactly. Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, because I think most of the other trails are fairly well trodden, so you can follow along.
Yep.
But that way there, once you've improved it, if need be, we can always upgrade it even a little more to an ADA compatible trail.
Yeah.
Like we have up on Small Town and we have at Lane. Would be nice to have an ADA trail, at least going, a few hundred yards into the woods, and so people can observe the bird habitat once it grows back in a little bit. And the only
Great.
other question I had when we were talking originally, we were leaving good sized brush piles out there for the birds as well.
We can, as, I would consider some small brush piles. Those tops are going to be pretty big, and they're going to be, they're going to need to be broken down, but I would recommend just as they're pulling the tops at the end of the harvest, just bring out a few piles, scatter them around for coarse woody debris.
Yep, yeah, because I think that was something that the professional from the Audubon Society had mentioned in this patch cut,
Yes,
that you do leave some debris behind to allow for bird habitat. So just something I want to make sure that everybody hears, that we are going to be leaving debris out there for the bird habitat
yeah, that was
in
for
the
the,
patch cut areas.
I think that was for the brown thrasher, I think was his preferred bird for leaving that
Yep.
material.
Thank you. That answers both my questions, Bob.
Thank you, Rich. Are there any other comments or questions from members of the commission? Are there any comments or questions of the public? I would note that we placed an ad in the newspaper to make sure that the public was fully informed that we were going to be discussing this. Even though it's not a formal public hearing, you know, we are looking for and welcome public input. Gary, I would ask that you take and you amend this cutting plan to talk about the width of the skid trails, to talk about, you know, improving the trail that goes out to the park, and I guess and also to say that the skid trails are going to be left clear of debris at the end of the cutting.
Okay.
One other quick question, Bob, for Gary, then it goes to both projects. I know there's been talk of increase in price of lumber. Didn't know if that changed the valuation of this project to a positive from a negative.
That is the big question I get from everybody, and the answer is not much. You're seeing prices from mills and distributors that hasn't reached the landowner quite yet. It's coming up, but the supply end, they're now meeting their supply and it's starting to go out the door, and the landowners are going to start seeing some increase, but everyone thinks it's going to, the stumpage is at the same rate as the lumber, and it's not there. And be glad to send you some good articles about it, about the local economy, local market, but it's coming back for sure.
Okay.
Prices
And
have
is
increased.
most of this leaving the site is finished wood timber, or is it going to be chipped and just sent over to
No,
Pine Tree?
so on the cutting plan, you'll see we got about 19,000 board feet, of which most of it is oak. About 16,000 feet oak. So this is it'll generate revenue. This is not a net cost project. And combined with the Northfield street lot, the two parcels should be able to generate gross value of about 25,000, plus or minus. So it's nice that this one can be joined with the Northfield Road lot, because the Northfield Road lot has a very well-stocked, overstocked saw timber type forest where it's going to generate the majority of the revenue. But this one, because of the oak quality, the value, you're going to have a return in revenue. So it's you're not losing money on doing the project, and you're creating the good habitat. So win-win.
All right, super. And are we bidding this out, both projects together or separately?
I would put them out together. There's a market for clean wood chips right now, and there are very few people who have it. And I'm considering requiring that whoever purchases the timber has a clean wood market, clean chip wood market. Basically, they can pay for the chips at firewood prices, where most everybody else is struggling with the chip market. So I'm thinking about it. It isolates it down to one or two people who would be interested. But I think it's important to, because it's available, to take advantage of it if you can. So I've got to think about it and see how the market for the wood chips progresses before we put it out to bid.
Okay. And I guess in thinking, the last question is, do you happen to have any rough specifications for the trail as it's going to be left, the walking trail that they're going to upgrade?
Yeah, I don't know if you missed the conversation we had, but we're still doing a whole tree chipping job, and they're pulling the whole tree. And when you're dealing with the tops, the canopy, some of those canopies.
Nope, the trail, it's, because we're going to improve the trail out of the parking lot. Do you have a rough spec on how that's going to be upgraded? Is it going to just be gravelled and flattened, or?
That's up to you. How do you want that finished product?
Myself, I'd like to see it probably gravelled and flattened. Something that's going to hold up to time, but we should probably review that a little bit, Bob, because I think if we do have a plus income on these projects, we should probably upgrade the parking area and a few of the trails over at Renault as well.
Okay.
I agree, Rich, but I don't see that as part of the cutting plan. Do you see that as part of the cutting plan?
Definitely, well, not part of the cutting plan, but it's going to be part of the contract bid going out. So it is something we should have.
So my question though is, when we did it at the small town forest, it was not a requirement of the harvester, who some of these harvesters may or may not have earth equipment, excavators. Most of them do. There's a cost to the amount of material, gravel, that has to be incorporated. Those specs kind of have to be predetermined, and that kind of falls on your hands as to how much parking area you want, what the estimated gravel is, if they're going to purchase it. I guess my recommendation is to reduce the cost. Is there a means within the town to actually have that done through DPW or town resource? And then you can do it at your leisure, weather conditions permitting. It doesn't fall in the hands of the timber harvester. It's up to you if you want to make it a requirement of the harvester, but they're really not in the business of dirt work and construction of parking lots. But I know the state does it, and a lot of these guys, it's an annoyance, but they do it when they have to. So, but I'll leave it.
This was one of the public outcries that we got when we did small town, is we didn't go any further. We got the income from it,
Right.
and put the parking area in, but there was some concern about the way the trails were left. So where it is an income positive project, I think we should be trying to put some of that income back into the properties themselves, whether we do it with the harvester or at some other point. I think it should all be part of the bidding process and the construction plan all at once.
Well, Rich, I'm not sure I absolutely agree with you that, we should be using some of the funds to make improvements. I'm not sure it should be part of the cutting plan, because number one, we might be able to get ADA grants to do some of the trail improvements and the parking lot improvements. And number two, the things that we're talking about, where we're asking these cutters to do things that are not really in their wheelhouse. So
yeah, I think the most important part, you can go either way. You could have the purchaser, the logging contractor do the work, but the specs have to be defined. they don't want to be there and then have people telling them, okay, you got to do this, this, and this while they're there. If they know in advance what the area, the square footage, the amount of material, if that's predetermined, and that kind of falls in your lap as to the specs of the finished product, then we can incorporate that in the bid. But that's up to you. It's entirely up to you, but that has to be predetermined. They have to know in advance what they're going to be required to do as a finished product.
I'd like to, at this time, I'd like to call on Paula Bertram, a member of the public.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. I just want to remind the committee that some riders are amenable to helping with projects like this. So if there's ever anything that we can do, whether it be a parking lot or whether it be, you know, clearing of debris, we're more than happy to help. So just reach out to us. And if this is something we can help with, I'm sure that we have people that would be willing to help. We have a lot of heavy equipment operators in the group that are familiar with how to create the parking lot as we did with the lane. So just let us know.
Oh, Richard, you got your hand up again. Richard Bush.
Sorry about that, Bob. You must have lowered it and then I hit the button again. Sorry.
So Gary, can you make those changes that we well, before we move on, I guess, do other members of the commission have feelings one way or the other about whether we should put the trail improvements into the cutting plan or handle them separately? Mike LaRouche, how do you feel about that?
Who would do a better job for the money that we're going to expend, getting, making Paula's suggestion, having local people do it, or going after your ADA grants to do it? Or do we go after, or just provide the specs for Gary for his proposal? I'm not that savvy on that kind of bid, but it sounds like someone could do a better job for the money that we have. And I like Rich's suggestion, given that, you know, if it's handled at the same time, it could be a done deal. So I like that expedient part of his suggestion. But if it's going to cost more money, because you know, the logging people have to gear up to do the work that's been specified. However, if it's spec'd in advance, maybe it's not that big a deal, but only Gary could give us an answer to that aspect of this.
I think if you have a specs on trail completion, parking lot, gravel, stone dust, whatever the finished product is, we can incorporate that into the bid as part of the logger requirements on cleanup. And then see what happens, see what because it'll be a cost. So I'm going to separate the value of the wood from the services for creating a parking lot, anything that would be required above and beyond a standard timber harvest. So I'm separating the apples and oranges. The revenue that comes in from the timber is separate from their bid, for their bid cost for services. So that I don't want to mix them up. And certainly I'm being paid on a percentage of the value of the timber. So if they incorporate all of these costs into their bid for the timber, that drops the price. I want to see the real price. I want to see the cost for the services that they provide. And then you can evaluate it and say, I think we can find something better. And
Gary?
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from the other members right now.
sure,
Kravitz?
Hey, Bob, thank you, and apologies for getting late. You know, I'm a believer in keep everything in one house, one package, in terms of coordination, in terms of what events have to happen when, if they need to cut a road or whatever, they have the equipment and it all gets done at the same time. I think if we, by making them responsible for the trails being cut properly, the widths we desire, we have some leverage because there's probably a little bit of a holdback there. So while I appreciate the fact that we can get some volunteer folks, from what I saw on the small town forest, we don't have anything like that kind of equipment rolling around either. So I'm kind of staying with Mike's thoughts and Rich's thoughts. Let's keep it in, as all part of the one bid, one contract package.
Katie, what are your thoughts?
I think that, I mean, I can really go either way on this, but I don't think it'd be a bad idea. Like Jack was saying, one package, just one thought, just going it that way. But I could go either way.
Patty, you have any thoughts on it one way or the other?
Yeah, I would like to see it incorporated into the bid, have it on one plan. Now, Paula had made the suggestions that there's people that she knows that could help out. I don't know if that could be incorporated into it where they could do some of the work in order to get the cost down, but then have that initial bid be like, so that it gets done all at the same time. If that made any sense.
Yeah, it does. Gary, is it possible to put it in the cutting plan, in the cutting contract?
oh, yes. So look, I just want to go back to the small town forest. So they weren't paid any additional, they weren't paid to do anything above and beyond what they had done in terms of the material they pulled out, the skid trails that they left. So there was some debris left behind. And I think that was some of the concern. But that's part of a standard timber sale. They're not going to go back and pick up small sticks. But if you want them to, that will have to be incorporated into the bid prospectus. So I'll put out the bid prospectus. I'll identify the wood that's being sold, the requirements of the harvest. And then if the additional, like if they're making a parking lot, putting in gravel, stumping, going back to the trails and picking up sticks, then that will be incorporated as a cost, a service to the town, and it can certainly be done.
All right, well, why don't you revise the draft plan and, this based on these comments, and we'll discuss it again the next meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, let's move on to the Renault plan. Can everyone see the Chase Road Renault plan on their screen? All right, and so I just, my comments on this were to consider eliminating, it's hard to see on here, but the harvest area goes right up to the property boundary line here, and we had discussed away from some of these houses on Old Farms Road. Again, I'd like to see us, certainly trail that goes from one end to the other should be maintained at the end as a trail. And it should be incorporated into the cutting plan that at the end of the project, that skid trail, should left clear of debris, as a trail for public use. And again, I'd like us to see, give the estimated width of the skid trail, just so that we don't end up with skid trails that are 120 feet wide. And also on here, I'd like us to definitely want to see us identify an area up here on the Hirsch property where it abuts Northfield Road to be cleared of debris, potential use as a parking lot, farther down the road, unless again wants to take and go the route of including the parking lot as part of this project. Those are my comments. What are the comments of the other commissioners?
Bob, can you enlarge the map a little bit?
I certainly
Oh,
can.
thank you, sir.
We won't be able to see the whole thing. Let's see. Can we-
Yeah, I'm just worried about, I'm wondering how far are we cutting into essentially that neighborhood? Are we leaving a decent buffer zone there?
See, this is the area I was talking about right here.
Yeah,
The stone wall.
yeah.
You know, I'm not sure we should be cutting right here.
I agree
I'm
with
thinking
you.
maybe we should stop the cut.
Yeah,
About
that,
here,
and
so we're not-
actually, it may not go beyond that stone wall.
Well, on the map, the little dots go on the other side of the stone
Yeah,
wall.
just a little bit, but I don't think we marked beyond the wall. I'll have to double check.
Well, but I'd like it not to be on the map.
Okay,
Myself, but I'm sorry, I cut off Jack Rabbit. Jack Rabbit was
No,
talking.
no, we're thinking the same way, Bob. And in fact, let's leave a green barrier between these folks that have always enjoyed this conservation land and not change it so much. And I bet you we'll rile them up a little bit less if we, if they can't really perceive much of a change from their homes.
Yeah.
And I think that that would clearly help part of our our support. It would help folks would go along with it as long as they realize their backyard really didn't change all that much.
just an important note there that appears that there's some encroachment there, and when we ran the line, so I'm just bringing that to your attention.
Oh, did you happen to record where the encroachment was, Bob? I mean,
Yeah, right to the south of that home, there's a camper parked beyond the line.
okay.
Okay. Richard Birch. No, I'm sorry, Jack, were you done?
I am done. Thank you, Bob. Thank you
Yep,
very much.
Richard Birch.
There we go. Hey, I was just gonna recommend perhaps the easiest way to do it is just to leave a 100-foot buffer and not cut within 100 feet of the property line.
Yeah.
Might be the easiest way just to do it.
Well, you're right, Rich. That could be easy. I'm not sure it's necessary down here where you're a lot of woods between these houses, and the edge of the but I am concerned in this area where the home is fairly close to the property line.
Yeah, so you mean the S2 area?
The S2 area, yes.
So perhaps just stay on the east side of the stone wall and just have the stone wall as the boundary line for that cut on the S2 area?
Looking at the scale, what do you think? You think that's 100 feet from the property line to the stone wall there, Gary?
No, it's probably more like 70 feet. From between the stone wall and the line, it's probably about 70 feet, 75 feet.
Well, I think at a minimum, we should stay on this side of the stone wall, and you already said that you didn't mark any trees over there, so.
I don't think we did. Yep.
Anything else, Richard?
And I don't happen to see any trees out at the patch cut, so I don't have a problem with going closer to the boundary line out in that corner.
Yeah, so that's one question I have. So I identified ST3 as the bird habitat patch cut. I don't know, what is it, an acre or so? And what I haven't done is officially painted the perimeter, and wanted to make sure that location is to your satisfaction. And if it is, then we'll finalize it by painting the perimeter.
So I'm just gonna, while you move on, Bob, I'm just gonna check Oliver, because isn't that the corner that was given to us by the greenhouse?
Oh,
Where the trail comes through?
I'm sorry. Most people are probably not privy to this. Bright Farms has fallen through. And we won't be getting that property.
All righty then.
Yeah, alrighty then is right. Any other comments or questions from commissioners or members of the public? Please raise your hand. Again, I would note we did advertise this in the paper to make sure our people were aware that we were going to be discussing this tonight. But I also would note we a site visit on this some months ago, and that was very well attended, and there was a lot of planned during that site visit. So again, Gary, I would ask that you take and revise this cutting plan, you know, to the cut area away from the boundary, you know, in the ST2 area there.
Yeah.
That you clearly identify the area to be a parking lot. That you specify the width of the skid trails, you know, make an estimate of the width of the skid trails, and that you specify which of these skid trails will be maintained after the project is completed as a hiking trail.
Okay. So those trails that are identified on the map in pink, they're basically going to follow the terrain, which I'm assuming would be the most ideal places to have a hiking trail.
Absolutely.
How, other than the ones there that marked on the west side, there are some side trails. There are trails that aren't going to be connecting. I think if you gave me a determination as to which trail you would like to maintain as a public access trail, I'll highlight it differently. Speaking just for myself, I would like to see, you know, this trail that goes all the way down to the other end. And this here maintained. I don't see any point in maintaining these trails that go off to the side. You don't have any direct access. We're still going to be pursuing in the future, I hope, you know, access from this town piece of property to this town piece of property over here. But that's speaking for myself. Now, the other members want to weigh in on, you know, which trails to be maintained at the end of this, project. I'm going to take this waiting time as indicating agreement. So
I had a little video flash. What were the trail you were looking at, in your opinion, went from the landing zone and just followed out and ended at the bird patch?
But also maintain the loop. So like if people are hiking out there, you know, they got a little loop at the end, you know, and they can go back to the parking lot. And I mean, I hope eventually we'll be able to take and put a trail to get to the Saliba South property that's actually belongs to the Parks Commission.
Yep, which is there at the bird patch or the patch cut.
Just at the edge of the bird patch.
Okay. And I assume where Gary's chosen that spot for the landing zone, that's probably the best spot for the parking when they're done with the landing zone to upgrade it to a parking area.
Gary?
Yes, so that looks like a good spot. Seems to be the best approach, flat off of Northfield Road. If you can give me some specs for the width, the type of material you want put in there, when the time comes to send out the bid prospectus, I'll incorporate that into the bid. Yep, but I do need to know those specs.
Do you have an idea? Do you have an idea how big the landing zone is going to be?
Well, they're going to need close to an acre of processing. You know, it's all that part of that abandoned field. So the area that they're going to use is going to be plus or minus an acre for all the equipment, landing the wood. But the parking lot, I'm sure it doesn't need to be an acre. So it could be similar to the small town forest. Determine how many cars you would like to allow in there, and I'll incorporate that in square footage.
Okay. I actually think I have the specs from the Lane property, the parking area we put in there, and I believe Small Town, we had specs for that as well. So just a matter of coming up with how many cars the commission feels we should be able to park there.
That's wonderful news, Richard.
Well, I think they're all on the cloud, Bob.
Oh, good. Any other comments or questions from members, from anyone about these cutting plans? Gary, thank you so much for attending tonight.
Thank you. And especially the Northville Road project, it's a forest that's starting to see some very tight space, that some thinning now is going to really help this woodlot for the future. Again, it'll go symbiotic with the bird habitat plan, and you're going to see some nice uneven age management. And the big part now is the climate change and trying to maintain uneven age forests of diverse species. And this project's going to do just that.
So before you go, Gary, let's hear what Jack Rabbit has to say.
Just a confirmation that we're going to go with 100 foot off the boundary. Was that the plan?
I thought we were going right to the stone wall.
Yeah,
No,
all
we're
right.
staying to the east of the stone wall.
I'm sorry, Richard, didn't get you.
East of the stone wall.
East of the stone wall, the 100 foot, or just the stone wall?
Myself, I think, I mean, it's definitely 70 feet anyways, and it's not like you're gonna cut trees right at the stone wall. So
Okay,
I think that definitely, in my mind, gives us what we were looking for as far as a buffer.
and that'll give us the boundary, right? Okay, thank you. All set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Going once, going twice, on to
Thank you, Gary.
LSIC.
Yeah,
I
thank
noticed Joanna Bellata was here, but I also know we're going, based on communications I had earlier tonight, today that, and yesterday, that they're going to come back, LSIC is going to come back on meeting. Joanna, did you have anything you wanted to say tonight?
Hi, Bob. Thanks for letting me come. I just want to apologize to the board. Dominic actually did come out to Lake Shirley and do the survey back on Monday, June 14th, but he just has not had time or staff to actually complete the report that's due to you 2 weeks before the meeting. So we're going to come, hopefully he's going to have the report to you by tomorrow. By 5, we'll come to you on the 21st with the treatment date of the 27th. But I just wanted to apologize for not meeting here again this evening and let you know why. It's totally just a staffing issue at Solitude at this point in time.
Thank you, Joanna. We'll see you on the 21st.
All right, I again apologize and I thank you for your support and commitment.
All right, next up is an appointment for a Hickory Hills Lake field change request for alum treatment. Well, I know I heard from Paula Bertram earlier tonight. Paula,
I am here.
go ahead, Paula. So,
I had sent you a presentation.
oh, let me see if I can share that.
Bob, if you can give me the ability to share, I can.
Here, I will do that. For the sake of
Okay.
simplicity, I will do that right now.
Okay.
I'm looking for my controls. 1 second. Meeting controls, stop share, security. Allow participants to screen share. You should be able to screen share now, Paula.
Okay. Okay, so I thank you for allowing me to come in tonight. Hopefully you guys can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay, so we are asking for permission to do a phosphorus binding treatment at Hemlock Beach. You may recall that we had come back in March and received permission to do an alum treatment at Little Hickory, which has been done, and I did notify Matt before that treatment. So Hickory Hills Lake contains 3 community beaches that are used by our residents: Hemlock Beach, Island Road Beach, and Brookview Beach. Currently, there's a significant amount of green algae mats on the surface and extending 3 to 4 feet down in the water column at Hemlock Beach. And these are some of the pictures taken today, actually, at Hemlock. And you can see that there's just large floating mats of algae at the beach. There's a dense forest of pondweed in the swimming area. And you can see, you know, there are people on the beach here, but it's almost making this area unusable. Whoops. There's a lot of water lilies mixed with bladderwort in the swimming area. And this is a picture of the swimming area. And there's also a large amount of duckweed throughout the area. So aluminum sulfate or alum will allow control to prevent a more significant algae bloom. And Hemlock Beach is unique in that the topography of the cove limits the exchange of water from this area to the rest of the lake. It's almost like a bowl shape. So the phosphorus binding treatment will stay in place while it binds the phosphorus and then sinks to the bottom layer of the lake, which will remove the phosphorus from the water column in the area. Unfortunately, Brookview and Island don't have that same topography. But this area is widely used and we'd like permission to apply alum to this area. I don't know why it's doing that. Additionally, to the alum treatment, back in March of 2020, we had received permission to use amazamox or diquat to control nuisance vegetation in some areas of the lake, and we would like permission to, or actually notify you in accordance with our order that we would like to apply amazamox and diquat just to this area at this point. Just to give another update, we're at the very beginning of our season, and we have found some fanwort sporadically in the lake. And we purchased underwater scooters, and we have divers that are actually looking at the bottom of the lake for fanwort, and they're doing a phenomenal job. And we also have people in kayaks and paddle boards, which we're calling topsiders, surveying regularly to make sure that we don't miss it. And the fanwort right now is being hand pulled when we find it, because we're only finding a couple stalks in specific areas, in sporadic areas, excuse me. We did end up with a beach closure last week at Brookview Beach, but the Board of Health, we test every other week during the summer months. The beach has been retested and reopened by the Board of Health. We are investigating a stormwater outfall at Brookview, and we're going to be working with our consultant to determine if this is in fact a problem or a concern. We've created a stormwater committee that's going to be working on stormwater issues with ESS, the DPW director, and hopefully the stormwater task force. We did receive a report from ESS, and we're in the process of integrating that into our lake management plan, and we expect to be doing a full update on our findings for this season and a new lake management plan in the fall of 2021.
So Paula, specifically tonight, the ask is?
Alum treatment at Hemlock, and to notify you that we may be using amazamox and diquat in the area to control the nuisance vegetation at Hemlock Beach.
Any comments or questions from members of the commission? Richard Bursch.
I
Hi, Paul. I had a couple quick questions.
Sure.
What is the phosphate readings currently at the beach as opposed to historically?
We have only done our first round of phosphate testing, and in accordance with ESS recommendations, the phosphate actually were fine. But we only tested the deep areas of the lake, which is basically in front of the dam. We tested phosphorus at the surface and at the deep layer, and we tested at Little Hickory, which is in accordance with our plan. We have not done readings at Brookview. However, that is part of our plan, and actually I have a proposal from our consultant to analyze testing, and we're going to be testing stormwater outfalls throughout the lake. And we're going to be testing after storms. So hopefully I'll be able to share more information with you after that, but I don't have any data on Brookview right now.
Well, how about Hemlock? So, so the alum doesn't have any effect on the algae itself. You're just looking to control phosphate in the area.
Yeah, and I'm going to let Joan speak to this because she's more knowledgeable about it than I am. Joan, if you would, Joan Pease is a member of the board of directors.
Yes. In addition to the mats of algae, which are a very clear indicator of high phosphorus levels, duckweed in particular is a very strong indicator of high phosphorus. Duckweed does not grow anywhere where there isn't high phosphorus. It's a big requirement for duckweed to flourish. And the duckweed is growing there quite rapidly, from none to some large areas in a matter of a few days. The phosphorus binding is to get rid of the reason for the algae. It does not kill algae. It gets rid of what the algae lives on. Without the phosphorus, the algae mats will not survive. So we bind up the phosphorus with the aluminum or in the alum or other aluminum salt. Sometimes they use polyaluminum chloride, and that permanently removes that phosphorus from circulating in the lake, which then prevents the algae. You go to the root cause rather than just putting in poison to kill the algae. And alum is non-toxic, whereas if you were putting in copper sulfate to kill the algae, it's really fairly toxic.
Okay. Do you have any plans to test before and after just to see what the delta was after your alum treatment?
We can certainly do that, Rich.
Okay. Yeah, it just, I mean, I do understand that duckweed and algae tend to grow in higher phosphate areas, but it would seem to be logical to test to make sure that that's exactly why you've got the algae and the duckweed growing there.
I will absolutely. We do have water testing, funding in it, so we can certainly do a phosphorus test at the beach before we treat and then after we treat.
Okay. And I don't remember specifically, do you have specifications for notifying the public prior to the pesticide applications?
Actually the herbicide, Solitude, who's our herbicide applicator, will do that. So he will notify. I will tell you that both Amazamox and Diquat don't require no swimming, but we do require no swimming at the time of the application. So that area will be closed just because we don't want anyone in the way of the application. But there isn't a requirement to be out of the water, but we will post the area.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments from members of the commission? Comments from members of the public? Nicole Waters?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So I was just curious. I'm totally in support of fixing up that area, by the way. But I was just curious if the board has reached out specifically to the professionals at ESS to ask if Alum is the appropriate application for that area. I only ask because I vaguely remember and I don't want to say this as fact, but I vaguely remember him saying that it wouldn't be. So I would just feel more comfortable if we did ask the pros at ESS if that was the appropriate application. Because I don't know how to pronounce this, diquat, of course, but Amazamox and diquat. And another one is, just kind of a lot of chemicals in one area. And I don't know if all three, I don't know if Alum is going to do anything over there, according to ESS.
I can talk to that if you want, Paula.
Sure, go ahead, John.
Nicole, when we had the meeting with ESS, which he went over the report with the community. Prior to that meeting, prior to when we allowed in committee members and community members, we had a discussion with him about Hemlock Cove in particular. And we talked to Carl Nielsen from ESS and discussed the topography of the area. And he said, yes, that alum would be an appropriate treatment for that cove because it was not open to the rest of the lake and there was very little mixing of the water in Hemlock Cove with the rest of the lake. He did not think it would work in an area which was open to the lake, such as Brookview Beach or Island Road Beach, or any other area where it's wide open. But if you're familiar with the Hemlock, which I know you are, area, you have to go down a long, narrow waterway that then opens into this cove. And the bottom of the lake rises up in the waterway. So the waterway that enters this cove is very shallow. So it's really restricting the flow of water between this cove and the rest of the lake. So for that reason, he felt this would be a good treatment in this area only.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I vaguely remember him saying alum is just not going to work in the main lake because the issue isn't from the sediment at the bottom. So
correct.
Okay, so thank you very much. I appreciate it. That was my only concern, and thank you for making efforts to fix that area.
Thank you.
Any other comments from members of the commission or members of the public?
I'd just like to comment personally that I agree with supporting treating it to fix the problem.
Thank you, Patty. Then I guess I'm looking for a motion to approve this as a field change for the alum treatment.
I make a motion, we approve field change to the order of conditions for Hickory Hills, with the caveat that they're going to test prior and after the phosphate levels. And the only other thing I'd like to add is that they present a plan of the treated area to the office 72 hours prior to treating.
Do we have a second to Richard's motion?
Second.
All right, we have several seconds. Roll call vote. Patty Adams,
Aye.
Richard Birsch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
and I for myself. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to our new public hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a request for determination by Patricia Residence Trust for work at 207 Fire Road 16 will be held. Work proposed is for the repair of a septic system. Who is here for that application? Please raise your hand.
Mary Ann DePinto, 3 Oaks Environmental. Hi there. And I think Dan Proctor's here.
Yes, I can see you both.
Oh, good.
So who's going to talk first?
I'll just give a little
wait.
background on the septic system, if I could, Mary Ann.
Sure. Go ahead.
So first of all, Fire Road 16 is on the south end of the lake, down past Catacootamug. Take a right, circle back around by the railroad bridge by Keating's. What we have is a failed Title V septic system. I don't know if Bob's going to try to pull that up.
I am trying to pull it up right now.
We are replacing the failed system with a new 1,500 gallon tank. and a 17 by 18 leach field. The leach field is going to be outside the 100-foot buffer zone. The only work within the 100-foot would be the trenching to the tank and the trenching from the tank to the leach field itself. All the proposed work is down gradient of the highest elevation, which is the house elevation. These properties are served by private wells. Material on the site is a gravel material.
And 3 members of the commission went out and did a site walk there this past, actually 2 weekends ago. Let me blow it up a little more.
Okay.
Mary Ann, did you have anything to add here?
Not too much other than it's a real challenge to locate a system like this when you're trying to avoid, 100 feet off of the neighbor's wells. There's a variance for the siting to the landowner's well, and the adjacent, and one of the neighbors is 95 feet. So it's close to the 100 feet. So it's sort of like, this is like the prime spot to put this system in. What else was I going to note? That's essentially it. And with the house being higher, there is no chance of any kind of erosion into the lake because it's pitching away.
And I would note on the sidewalks, speaking for myself, with some distance from the lake, and it's in an area that is already totally cleared and flat and disturbed.
If the old system is encountered, I'm not sure anybody knows where it is, but if it is encountered, the unsuitable soils are going to be removed from the site and replaced with clean material, sandy, gravelly material.
Any other comments or questions from members of the commission? I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion for a -3 determination.
Thank you, Richard. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Patty Adams,
Aye.
Richard Bursch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
and I for myself. Aha.
Excellent. Well, thank you all. Have a good night.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And for those other members of the participating in the meeting, Jeff Viviano has just joined us.
Yes, I have. Good evening.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, and I gotta admit one person. On to our first continued public hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, in the title Lunenburg Wetland Protection, a municipal bylaw, a public hearing on a notice of intent at 326 Highland Street by Steve Fenner for swimming pool, landscaping, and tree removal within the buffer zone. Who is here for this application? Mark Bursch. Go ahead, Mark. Let me see if I
Mr.
can
Chairman.
call your documents here.
Mr. Chair, as my brother is representing the applicant, I will be recusing myself from this hearing.
Thank you so much, Richard.
Hey, Mark, what's happening?
Hey, Rich. There won't be much to recuse yourself from. I don't think we have a DEP number for this yet, Bob. I checked earlier today, and I didn't know if there's anything that the agent can do when he gets back from vacation to see if we can poke DEP along.
Well, I always advise all to take and send the person who reviews the the application a copy of your canceled check, because that often seems to, they're waiting for a copy of the canceled check before, and it seems like it takes forever, using their internal processes. So,
Okay. I mean, I can do that, but I mean, I see that there's been DP file numbers generated for everything around this one event.
Yep,
I've tried emailing them and got no response.
yep. And I think there's somebody new doing it now. So, but as we both say this week, so, any rate, let me see if I can't share the screen here.
I mean, I don't know if you can do anything without the DP number. That was, I thought, the hang up before.
I don't think we can do anything. Jack Rabbit.
Mr. Chairman, if you and I recall, when we went and visited the site where there was concern with where the pool would actually be located. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong one. Never mind, Bob. Wrong one.
No,
Apologies.
totally different application, and it's
Yeah,
not on our agenda tonight.
right. My apologies.
That's quite all right.
Thank you.
Well, Mark, absent a DEP number, you're right, we can't really vote on it without the DEP number. We did do a site visit and looked at it. People who were on the site visit, does anyone have any comments or remarks other than myself?
I do, Mr. Chairman. This is Jeff.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, I thought everything was fine with the placement of the pool. They had it staked at the center. The only question that I had is on, I guess you could say, the north side of that drawing, there were a few trees that were set to cut, which in my opinion, I didn't think would be required. And I think it was great that they were going to remove that area too, to kind of rejoin those two kind of wetland areas. I think the mosquito control was going to do that, and then Mr. Bursch was going to get rid of the material there. So that was the only comment that I really had. It seems
And if I believe if
acceptable to
people
me.
can see my cursor, it's the trees that Jeffrey were questioning the need to take down. And I concurred with that, or these trees over here, and the people, when we spoke with the applicant, they said, oh, they were afraid they would fall on the septic system. And what the problem is with the tree falling down on top of a septic system, which is, buried under the ground. So,
Could we work towards maybe pruning some of those? I mean, we could prune those trees without any problem.
I believe so.
Okay. So we're just kind of waiting on a DEP number then?
As far as I can tell, there are no concerns about the project that have been expressed, other than, questions about the trees, which you just said, you'd be willing to talk to the applicants about pruning them rather than removing them. So
Correct.
I would suggest we continue, Mark. And then
Okay,
reach out to Matt as soon as he comes back about what can we do to rattle DEP's cage.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much.
All right, so I'm looking for a motion to continue until the 21st, I believe.
So moved.
Oh, gotcha.
Was there, and do we have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Patty Adams,
Aye.
Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
and I for myself. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, John and ladies.
All right. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by the Town of Lunenburg, Thomas Wu and Scott Benjamin will be held. Work proposed is restoration of a parking area to a naturalized state on town property at Fire Road 12. I don't believe there's anybody here for that, on the one hand. On the other hand, we do have, the only thing we were waiting for on this was a DEP number, and we did get a DEP number. So I would be willing to entertain a motion to approve with and would note that in the past, we've talked about the, we will work with town council to accompany the approval to be sent to the owners. Unless there's further discussion. Is there any discussion before I go looking for motions? Then I'm looking for motions. Is anyone willing to make a motion? Or are we going to continue this for some reason?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh, we have a second, a motion and a second.
Oh.
Roll call vote. Patty,
Aye.
Richard Bursch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
and I for myself. Thank you. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, the town of Lunenburg Wetland bylaws. Yes, go ahead, Rich.
I think you have to back up on voting. I don't think Patty could vote on any of these continued hearings.
Oh, you are right. You are right. You are right. She could vote to continue the public hearing. She can't vote to approve. So Patty, you're gonna have abstained on the Fire Road 12.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you, Richard. Pursuant to Mass General 131, Section 40 is amended. And so let's back up. Patty made the motion. She really can't have made the motion. I need a new motion for Fire Road 12, removing the parking lot and restoring it to a naturalized motion.
I will make that
a motion that we approve the project as submitted, with the caveat that the town council will be contacting them to ensure that it is done completely.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second. Without further discussion, roll call vote. Patty, I assume you're going to abstain.
Yes.
Richard Bursch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
let's see, we did discuss it at the last meeting and the others. So you can vote aye and I for myself. Now, on to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, in the town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a recreational resource area at 988 Reservoir Road by John Keating will be held. Is there anyone here for that application?
Hello, Mr. Chairman, Brian Butler,
Hi, Brian.
Bosco Associates.
All right. Did we get a DEP number, Brian?
We did at long last, 208-1232.
And what were their comments?
There was no technical comments from the department. They just noted that it was a delineation of affirmation. As Tom Rapula, I think it is the new analyst to me over there, but he's, I think, handling a lot of the Lunenburg matters, and I know he was stacked up according to Kim Roth's accounts, but he seemed to be catching up finally. So I think at the last meeting, the only outstanding variable, if you will, was the lack of a file number. I do have the materials I can display, or you may have them as well, but I don't think there was any outstanding questions from the commissioners, but I'll leave it to the chairman to guide the meeting.
All right. First of all, I have to admit somebody. Second of all, I want to stop there from the last hearing. And are there any comments or questions from the members of the commission, or does anyone want to see the plan from that we discussed at our last meeting? Are there any comments or questions from members of the public on this? If there are no comments on this whatsoever, then I'm looking for a motion. This is a delineation. And
Mr. Chair.
so, go ahead.
I move that we approve the delineation as presented in the application for 988 Reservoir Road.
Thank you, Richard. We have a second.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Patty, you have to abstain. Richard Birsch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
Mike, did you view the, I don't think you can vote, Mike. I think we did that at the meeting. You weren't here.
Okay,
Oh,
Then I'll
and I for
abstain.
myself. I think you're all set, Brian.
Thank you very much for your time, and I hope the rest of your meeting goes rapidly. Have a good evening.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. The Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent at 163 Beale Street by Margaret and Allison Brooks. Work proposed is a septic upgrade, and I know I saw Greg Roy.
Hello, I'm
Hi,
here.
Greg.
Thank you very much. Greg Roy with Dillison Roy, representing the applicant this evening. Just a quick check. The last couple of hearings have prompted me to ask, do we have a voting quorum for this, I assume?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so we have everybody can vote except for a new member.
Patty.
Patty.
And I don't know if we discussed this at our last meeting, so I'm not sure Mike can vote, but we still have a quorum without him.
There's 5 of you anyways. Okay.
Yep.
Want to make sure. Well, I'll be brief this evening. Would you like me to share my screen, Mr. Chair?
Yes, absolutely. I just enabled you to do that.
Okay. Bear with me here. Oh, wrong one. Hold on. This one. Share. Okay. I'm sorry, my computer's being slow. Okay. So we were here 2 weeks ago. Like just a 30-second refresher. The project.
Can you blow it up a little?
Sure. The project includes an upgrade of a failed septic system, and it would replace a 3-bedroom septic system on the property. There is not much room on the site for the system other than where we're proposing it. So we've really filled up the entire backyard with the septic system. There were a couple of comments raised by the commission. One was to show the limit of the 30-foot no-touch zone on the plan, which we have done in the revised plan. It's located, if you can see my cursor, it's the second longer dashed line here that's shown on the plan. We also included the area of the proposed disturbance within the 30-foot no-touch zone as requested by the commission. So we're proposing to disturb approximately 970 square feet of area. All of that would be restored to with loam and seed. So we would be, revegetating it. There's no impervious surfaces or things that are proposed within that area. The other thing that was requested was that we fill out a waiver request form, which we have done and submitted to you. The bottom of the line here, the bottom line here is that there's a system in the ground right now that is failing to protect the public health, and the reason for it is primarily due to its proximity within the groundwater table. So although we are asking for relief from both Board of Health regulations and relief from your wetland regulations to fit the system in, the new system will be far superior in public health benefits, in that it will be elevated above the groundwater table and provide a superior enhanced treatment for the effluent. The only last thing I wanted to say was that the Board of Health did indeed approve and grant the requested waivers at their last Board of Health meeting, which happened between the time we were last before your commission. So that has all been taken care of at this point. So I think that's it. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions or comments from members of the commission? Richard Bursch.
Hey, the only comment that DEP did have, Greg, was on your method of delineation.
Yeah, so I do apologize to the commission sometimes on these, I'll call them smaller projects that we didn't issue you field data forms, but we rest assured that we delineated this the same way we do everything else with, based on soils, hydrology and wetland indicator plants. So it was a field delineation, wetland flags hung in the field, survey located, shown on the plan. So.
And did you perform it or did you have a third party do it?
We did it in-house, Rich. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any way, just where this is such a tight project in a spot like this, that you could perhaps just forward on your report, just so we have it in the file?
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay. Just to
I would
cover up.
expect that to be a condition of the approval.
I would be fine with that.
Any other comments or questions from members of the commission? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve this notice of intent with a
I would
condition.
make a motion to approve the notice of intent as submitted, with the signed order of conditions to be presented after we receive the report on delineation.
We have a second.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Patty has to abstain. Rich Bursch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Mike, can you vote on this? Were you? last meeting?
Technically, he was not a member, Mr. Chair, at the last meeting.
I was a member as of July 1st, so Rich is correct. I can't really vote on something that was discussed prior to me being a commissioner.
Oh. I was not aware of that. I thought that if you had participated in the, it's kind of irrelevant tonight, but I thought if you had participated in the public hearings that you could still vote. But anyway, I for myself. All right.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Pursuant to Mass General Law, chapter, and note to self, I gotta find out about that from town council. Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a request for determination at 4 Brookview Terrace by John LeBlanc will be held. Work proposed is addition of sand to a beach. Is there, Caitlin? Caitlin, I know you sent in a diagram, which is what was requested. Has everyone seen the diagram in the cloud? Caitlin, that's a pretty heavy beard you got there.
Yeah, yeah, it's still has my wife's name on there. This is John LeBlanc.
There any comments or questions from commissioners? And some members of the public? I'm looking for a motion to issue a negative determination, RDA.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
All right, motion and second. Roll call vote. Rich Birch,
Abstain.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. Mike, we're gonna find out about this thing about voting before the next meeting. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section, Mike, if you could have voted, how would you have voted?
I would have voted yes.
All right, thank you for the record. Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. The Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent at 250 Howard Street by Joel Normandin will be held. Work proposed is for multiple crossings of a wetland to accommodate an access driveway. And-
I apologize. Am I all set?
Yes, you are all set, and I apologize, made that clear.
All right, no problem. Thank you very much. Have a
All
good
right,
one.
good night.
You too.
Assuming both Greg and Joel are here for this meeting?
Yes, sir.
And Greg, you have the ability to share your screen?
Okay, let me do that. Bear with me.
Which means that I don't have to share my screen.
Yeah. Okay, can you all see the plan? And everybody can see that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much for your time again this evening. For the record, my name is Greg Roy with Dillis and Roy, and I'm representing Joel Norman, who is also here with us this evening. And Joel, feel free to interrupt me if you if you feel the need to say something. So I invite that. So
Okay.
I'll start with a brief overview of where we've been since the last meeting. We issued, of course, we opened the hearing 2 weeks back, and we received some comments from the commission members, which prompted us to formally respond with a revised plan and a cover letter. And I'm going to summarize the bullet points in the cover letter and show you on the plan what we've modified in a minute. I did also want to note that we did receive a DEP file number for this project with a comment relative to the ACEC and which in this case gives me the opportunity to work, talk through the limited project provisions of the Wetland Protection Act. So I hope you're all waiting with bated breath for that little blurb that I have to give you in a few minutes. So I'm going to go systematically through this here. If you have it in front of you, I'm not going to show it on the screen, but we did submit a cover letter dated, I think it was yesterday, that summarized the plan changes. So I'm just going to go through those rather quickly, stopping where I need to give a little bit more explanation. First, we've added the 35, 50, and 100-foot buffer zone areas on the plan as requested. The 100-foot buffer does not show up a lot because a lot of areas of the site are within 100 feet of the wetland area. So we've shown those buffer zone areas on there to the as applicable throughout the site. The applicant had provided the Matt with percolation test results as well as the copy of the septic system that was approved, that was requested by the board. So that was provided by the applicant under separate cover for the proposed septic system in the rear of the property. There was a comment by the commission to increase the replication areas to a 2-to-1 replication ratio, which, just so everybody is aware, which means that if we're filling 1 square foot, for every 1 square foot of wetland that is proposed to be filled, we will be replicating 2 feet of wetland areas on the site. So we have done that. So we have increased the wetland replication areas on the site accordingly to that 2-to-1 ratio. We have provided a construction sequence on the plan documenting how the project would be constructed as requested. We've added notes specifying the seeding mix that we're looking to do on the, not just within the wetland replication areas, but in all the disturbed areas, slopes, anywhere other than the proposed wearing surface of the driveway. The commission asked if we could review dropping a few of the culverts such that the bottom few inches would be buried. So we have done that in several cases. We've dropped those culverts and we propose to bury the bottom 6 inches so that we can encourage a natural bottom for the migration of smaller wildlife animals through not having to go up over the driveway. So we have done that. And the commission asked us to provide additional information on the amount of disturbance proposed within the buffer zones, the various buffer zones, 30 and 50 feet. So we have provided those. It's in the cover letter, but I'll just read those for the record. The plan proposes 15,524 square feet of disturbance within the 30-foot zone, and between 50 and 30 feet, it proposes 4,992 feet of disturbance. We have, I didn't point this out, but we also, as requested by the commission, densified the plantings that we're proposing and the tree plantings that we're proposing within the replication areas. And we also put a note on the plan stating that existing trees, we weren't clear in the initial plan, but we are intending to save trees within the replication areas. So the last thing we want to do is cut more trees to plant new trees. So I think I mentioned this in my opening remarks a few weeks ago, but we are intending to build the wetland replication areas around the existing trees and leave the existing trees on hummocks. And we'll supplement those and densify the vegetation with both understory obligate wetland species, but also additional overstory trees as well. And we have revised the planting schedule that is included on the plans for that. And let's see. Bear with me as my computer switches. Oops. Hold on, I lost my, oh, there we are. So this brings me to the DEP comment relative to the ACEC. Again, for the edification of everybody on the meeting, ACEC stands for Area of Critical Environmental Concern, and it's an area designated by the state. So we are within an area of that is designated as an ACEC. What this does for us is as you know, we're proposing wetland filling for this project. A quote, limited project, which is a defined term in the Wetland Protection Act regulations, is a one of those notwithstandings. So, you know, the Wetland Protection Act sort of says what you can and cannot do, and then it has a bunch of notwithstandings, the foregoing, right? So a limited project is one of those notwithstandings. So it allows for the approval of projects, limited projects that would otherwise not meet the performance standards of the Wetland Protection Act in very specific circumstances. One of the circumstances is access to an upland portion of a piece of property where you have to cross a wetland resource area, and you have no other no other means of access to that upland usable portion of the property. And the reason why they define it as a quote limited project is that the act requires that the commission that the applicant documents that the project has been limited in scope to the maximum amount feasible by in this case local driveway standards. So the interest of the Wetlands Protection Act is basically looking to protect against applicants that would propose some disturbance that would be wider than the minimum standard that would be required for the construction and operation and maintenance of the proposed, in this case, driveway construction. So we've provided you, and so I want to be clear about the limited project. There's several triggers to that. One of the, if we did not have an ACEC, and we're proposing more than 5,000 square feet of wetland fill, we would be in the limited project category. Okay, so we are below 5,000 square feet of proposed wetland fill slightly. We're 47, 48, excuse me, not 1,000, 4,700. So we're below the 5,000 square feet. Since we're in an ACEC, any wetland filling kicks you into the limited project category. So that's the sort of the catalyst that bumps us into a quote limited project category here. So we have provided you with some with an updated project narrative in our notice of intent. We just resubmitted the notice of intent form in totality, just so you had a clean copy for your records. But we included a section in the project narrative relative to the limited project provisions. And just in summary, we have limited this width of the driveway to 12 feet. And we're putting retaining walls, as I discussed before, through the wetland crossing areas, right on the edge of the wearing surface of the driveway, so that we are as minimal as we possibly can get with this disturbance through the wetland area. So there's really no way we can shrink that in any form. One of the other things that the limited project provisions ask you to explore is off-site alternatives for access to the upland area of the property. In this case, the wetlands on the property also extend off on both sides of the property, and there's no opportunity for us to access the property with any less access the upland portion of the property with any less wetlands disturbance than we're proposing. In fact, the area of our property where we're proposing the crossings, we believe is the path of least resistance from a wetland alteration standpoint in the area to that back upland portion of the site. So that's a brief overview of limited project provisions. If there's any questions on that, I can try to answer them, or any questions on any of the other plan revisions that we've made.
Thank you, Greg. Questions or comments from members of the Jack Rabbit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so Greg, you're asking us to approve basically putting a 12-foot wide driveway a third of a mile through an AEC area, right? ACEC area?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. And how many of that is are affected within the 30-foot? How much of that wetland area is within 30 feet of or this driveway is within 30 feet of the wetland area?
15,500, nominally 15,500 square feet, Bob.
And this is roughly how many trees will we be taking down in this area and affecting? Because when you put a driveway in, obviously you affect something beyond that.
Yeah, and that's a good question. The way I'm going to answer that, Bob, is as little as possible. I don't have a tree count for you, but we have not only are we limiting the width of the impact area through the wetland areas, but we're not proposing any more disturbance than what's absolutely necessary for the construction of the driveway. So we're limiting that corridor, so to speak, as much as we can. So I don't have a, it would be a pretty significant exercise to give you exact tree counts through that area.
Or something. The sensitivity here is that, first of all, you're taking down a whole pile of trees, which is essentially the filter or air filters. The second piece is those trees deposit leaves and things like that. that act as essentially a filtering agent for that area that is the head waters for the Mulpus. And you know, you're going to be plowing that afterwards, and you're going to be pushing stuff over, and you're going to be affecting more than the 10 feet you're on. And by the way, do you have a turnaround? I don't see the drawing in terms of the layout of exactly where the property is in this, what you presented. Is there a fire engine turnaround there?
We don't propose one along the length of the driveway, Bob. We would be doing that in the outside, once we get outside the buffer zone at the house.
At the house?
Which is not in our jurisdiction, Jack.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah. Once he gets up past the 50-foot. So I'm seeing that there's a lot of cumulative damage that's going on for one house. And I have real concerns with regard to the effect of what it's going to have with regard to the entire headwaters of the Mulpus. So I guess I just need to look at this a little closer, Greg, and just figure out what does this mean, and perhaps talk to somebody else. But this is a big chunk. You're running 1/3 of a mile of a driveway through a whole sensitive area. And
if I could,
Rich, what is the replication requirements for that? Is it 2x or 3x?
Tree replacement depends on the size of the trees that are removed.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is in our regulations that trees be replaced per schedule inside the 50-foot no structure zone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would concur with you that it should comply with our regulations as far as tree removal and replacement outside of the wetlands. Of course, they are doing wetland replication, so that's a little bit different in the wetland areas, but upland, it should comply with our regulations,
Yeah.
my opinion.
Thank you. Jack, what do you have further comments?
Well, that's mine. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm done.
Other comments or questions from members of the commission? Richard Bursch.
I guess my only other question, thank you, Greg, for changing the culverts. I think that'll help with the animal crossings around the areas of the culvert. I do argue a little bit with your saying that you increased the density of the replication plantings. You've increased the plant numbers, but the ratio based on you also increased the replication size really hasn't changed. It's still roughly one plant every 100 square feet. And I myself would like to see that a little closer to one plant every 25 square feet or so. You know, you do have some small plants, ferns make up a good portion of what you're replanting in there. And I had asked perhaps to at least come up with what the density of the surrounding areas were and at least try to match that. So if we can come up with what the surrounding area is as far as density goes and can replicate that, that's fine. Or you know, one plant every 5 feet on center is not a lot of plants going back in a replication area. So, and that would be one plant every 25 square feet. You know, putting one plant every 100 square feet, now you're putting them 10 feet apart, which is great for a tree. That's going to take up some space, but a cinnamon fern is going to take up about 2 square feet. So I don't think it's quite a balanced planting scheme quite yet.
Yeah.
Those are my comments.
Well, I can wait till the commission to respond to those, if you'd like, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments, Richard?
Nope. Jack had brought up the part about the tree replacement as per regulation. And I do agree with Greg's reading of the limited project. It is a driveway that they are allowed to by right access to the upland property. So, I mean, everybody has to work together to get the driveway in this environmentally sensitive area with as little disturbance as possible. So, and for the most part, I think they've picked and choose very wisely going through the wetland areas. So I really don't have much of a problem with the placement. Now it's just the replications and making sure that we make this project as sensitive as possible. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions of the commission? Any questions or comments from members of the public?
Could I respond to add a couple of points, Mr. Chair, when I have an opportunity?
Yeah, let's see what Andrea Adams has to say.
Yep.
Thank you very much. The only question I had is you were saying that in terms of the replication, you were going to try and save as many existing trees as possible, which I think is definitely the way to go. The only question I would have is if they can tolerate being on a hummock. I apologize, I don't know the area particularly well, so I don't know if they're already used to either being periodically wet-footed or if they're going to tolerate that well enough that you're going to have them be there for the rest of their presumable natural life, you know, given typical circumstances. That's all.
Yeah, it's a great question. Mr. Chair, I'll respond to that and a couple of things if you'd like.
Go ahead.
So I'll respond to that one first, just so I don't forget it. So the elevation difference between the upland areas of the site and the wetland areas of the site is very is not very significant. While I can't tell you that the vegetation is 100% similar across the within, and the overstory vegetation is 100% the same within as it is outside of the resource areas. I think it suffices to say that most of the trees on the site have wet feet for, you know, have pretty wet feet. It's just that some of them don't quite make the wetland criteria some areas just don't quite make the wetland criteria for vegetation and hydrology and soils, but they still, you know, they still have wet feet. So I do appreciate that comment. I did want to say, I think in response to, just to add relative to the wetland replication plantings that we're proposing, I do understand Rich's point. We can certainly go back and take a look at that. But I did want to say that, you know, just to give a little bit more to the commission in terms of what is proposed for the wetland replication construction and restoration planting. So we'll, of course, excavate the material, excavate the areas. We'll translocate soil. So we're going to be translocating soils to the maximum extent possible from the areas where we're filling to the proposed replication areas. So we're grabbing wetland soil with the seeds in it and using that to the maximum extent possible. Now, we're replicating at a 2-to-1 ratio. So we're going to have to amend and supplement that soil. We have specifications for that as well. But we are going to be using the soil on the site to create the new wetland replication. And this is all in accordance with the standards and not regulations, but policies, the Massachusetts wetland replication guidelines and policies. So I wanted to point that out. And then we'll be we'll be planting with understory species and overstory species. And like I said, we'll go back and take a look at densities on those. But I did also want to note that we're overseeding the entire area with a New England wetland plant mix. And that there's a ton of different species in that mix. It's native species of obligate wetland plants, sedges, ferns, things that grow within wetlands. So it's not just going to be the actual specimen plants that we plant that will take hold there. It'll also be those other type of species that are in place. And what I find is you overseed with that mix, and the species that do well in that area are the ones that tend to take hold the best. So you end up with a good mix of wetland species, not just the ones that you planted, but also the ones that take hold from seed. So I did want to just clarify that. And then, relative to the canopy, loss of canopy and trees, I understand your point with your regulations, and we can do the best we can there. But I guess we will have, as Bob pointed out, we will end up with a linear strip of driveway through this portion of the site. But I guess I just wanted to say that we've made that as narrow as we possibly can. And I think that you're going to find that in a lot of the site, the canopy is still going to be intact over this driveway. You're going to have overstory trees that are still going to be intact. So while we might take trees down in the middle of where we need to perform the construction, we're still leaving a large portion of canopy in this area. So I understand that there's going to be a linear strip there, but there is still going to be that overstory canopy still generating nutrients to the forest floor. As I mentioned in my opening arguments, we've taken a very responsible look at maintaining stormwater flow across the driveway. We're not concentrating flow. We've taken a lot of extra time to ensure that we're taking a more decentralized approach to how we're conveying surface water from the up gradient to the down gradient side of the driveway, so that we're maintaining hydrology patterns through the area. And as I've mentioned, we've improved I think improved the characteristics of some of those culverts for wildlife passage as well. So, I understand that this project is creates some big gulps. It causes us to kind of take a big gulp. But I think that, as Rich pointed out, it is something that is allowed by right. And the Wetland Protection Act does anticipate these types of projects and allows for them to be permitted. And it's and I've totally missed my third point that I was going to say there, but I guess I just wanted to say that, we've really worked, the applicant has sort of enabled us to really work hard. Oh, I know what I was going to say. The applicant donated land in the back of the site, which is really key areas for conservation purposes, not only for open space, but also for protection, permanent, wild protection of significant portions of the headwaters of Mulpus Brook. So, this isn't just about the driveway. It's sort of about the evolution of how this whole project came to be and how the applicant has worked with the town to sort of make sure the town's interests are protected through the protection of that open space, and also, but also, of course, wants to preserve the right that he has to put the driveway in there. So I guess I just want to, and I did want to acknowledge that, like I said, I understand that it's a project that's a little bit more, has more of an impact than we're used to seeing. But that we have, but then I just wanted to assure the commission, as I hope has come across, that we have put a significant amount of time and energy into studying the impacts and designing the project in a way that would minimize them.
Thank you, Greg. I'd like to hear, I don't believe that we received, this hearing was opened at our last meeting. We didn't get a Mullins form, and there's a question about whether they could even vote for Patty and Mike. So they won't be participating in this vote because we don't have forms. So as far as I can tell, it's we got 5 voting members, so we need 3 votes for us to take action on, either for or against. I've heard from Richard, and I've heard from Richard that he's concerned about the density of the plantings in the replication area, and he thinks that the trees should be that there should be some, replacement trees. I've heard from Jack that he's concerned about the entire project because it's in an area of critical environmental concern, and it's going to remove a lot of wetlands. I'd love to hear from Katie and Jeff before I say what I have to say. Katie, what do you have to say about this application?
I agree with what Rich has to say. I think we need some more plantings. We need more information on where the plantings are going, with bigger density. I personally would like to see that. Overall, the project, I am okay with it. You know, I think that's the only place they could really put it. I understand how much of a hard situation it is, but again, I think more info on the plantings, and I'd like to see more.
Thank you. Jeff Viviano.
Yeah, it's very interesting, this site. I think really what is required is to go on a site walk to really see exactly where this driveway is going to be placed. And I can't say anything other than they've done a great job with this presentation and with their procedure going through this obvious, very densely, I guess, dense wetland area. But I just can't say more that a site walk is really what you need, and they've done a great job in the replication of the areas. I think that they're removing the soil and placing it in those replication areas. I think that those seeds will regerminate and kind of evolve themselves over the years. It's a very densely forested area. There's not really much sunlight that gets through in certain particular areas that we're kind of looking at here. If it was up to me, I'm comfortable with the project as it stands right now, but if other commissioners would like to see more plantings, I could see that as well.
Thank you. My thoughts on the project are that I agree that, first of all, they're allowed to do this. I mean, they're allowed to put a driveway to reach their upland area in the back. It's allowed by the regulation. I think they've done a great job of minimizing the impact. I know they're going to cut down a lot of trees, but I agree with Greg's statement that the trees on either side of the cut are going to come to middle, are going to fill in. They have that opening, the branches are going to start growing sideways and fill in. And I expect that within 10 years of this driveway, the canopy will be complete over the driveway, and you probably won't be able to see it on an aerial photograph very well at all. I see Richard's point about the density of ferns, density of small plants like ferns and stuff is on the. I'm not sure how I feel about having them plant trees in those existing fields, because it makes no sense to have them plant trees in a forest. I mean, it's already a forest, and it's already fully, there's already tremendous light competition going on, so the only place they could plant trees would be in the fields, and I'm not sure I see the point to that, having them plant trees in a field, because that's part of a diverse habitat. So I guess, are willing to take and vote on this tonight with conditions, or do they want to take and see amendments to the plan? And if so, before they vote, and what amendments would they like to see? So I'm going to start with that question with, oh, I'm sorry, Jack Rabbit has his hand up.
Oh, thank you.
On Jack Rabbit.
I'm sorry, I'm a little slow on the uptake here. Hey, Greg, just a real question. You indicated, you said a 12-foot wide driveway, and I'm looking at the drawings, but that's just the drive. Then you put another foot on each side with regard to your piers, your retaining wall. So now I'm kind of out to 14 feet. And then I've got a proposed in-cast place grading that looks like a little more than that. So I've got at least a 15-foot disturbance going on there. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. So
Okay, so that wasn't the 10 feet. You kind of got bigger.
well, sorry if I was unclear on that. I wanted to be clear, we have minimized the wearing surface of the driveway to the minimum, which is 12 feet.
Yeah.
Yes, we have to, we've, instead of putting slopes, right? And I think I explained this on the first meeting, instead of going from the shoulder and the hinge point going down on slopes, we have included those retaining walls. But we've set those as close as we think we physically can from a, an access and safety standpoint to the edge of that, the edge of the driveway wearing surface. And
Right.
there's thickness there, so we are going to be, our disturbance is going to be in the 15 to 16 foot range, and we think that's
And it's probably going to be
practical.
more than that because you're going to have equipment digging and doing all that other stuff, right? So would it be reasonable to say you're going to disturb 20 feet?
Well, I don't know, Bob. I think that we might disturb more than certainly going to have to disturb more than.
His name is Jack.
Excuse me, Jack.
Don't insult poor Bob.
I'm sorry to both of you.
He's got a lot more hair and much better looking, so.
That's not the first time I've done that either. I apologize. We certainly have to disturb, Jack, more than face of wall to face of wall, but I submit to you that the foot or two that we have to disturb on to physically set the retaining walls in place is temporary. So
Right.
the grades go back to the existing grade, and it goes back. So we're not proposing any permanent alteration past the face of the wall. So
I'm adding it another 2 feet on that. I'm adding about 18,000 square feet of impermeability. That'd be correct? About. And then you get more than that dropping down. So the question is, does it have to be a tarred driveway? Could it be?
actually, I actually misspoke last meeting. Thank you for that, Jack. The applicant is not proposing to pave this driveway, so this would be permeable.
So it's going to be permeable. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Larry. That's much better.
Sorry about that. And I appreciate the opportunity to correct that record. Thank you.
Okay.
But I did want to say, in response to something that you just said about additional impervious area, we have, I want to be clear, we've included face of wall to face of wall. That area is included in our numbers that we presented to you for wetland alteration, as we go through. So we're not just including the 12 feet, we're including face of wall to face of wall.
Okay. Let me go back and I'll check that as well. Thank you. Thank you, Ray.
Anything else, Jack?
No, that's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Then I'd like to start with Rich Birch to see, is it vote on this tonight with conditions, or would you like to see, modifications to the plan? And if so, what modifications would you like to see before you be prepared to vote?
Thank you, Bob. At this point, I don't think I'm going to be prepared to vote. The tree replacement is part of our regulations. Without any numbers or any sort of inventory on what's coming out, it's really hard to make a determination on if trees should be returned in there. If it's a substantial number, do we do it at the scheduled rate that's in the regulations? But I myself do think that the regulations should be addressed properly with an inventory of what's coming out in the driveway basin.
And how about the wet issue, Rich?
As far as the planting, I would be fine with Greg stating that they would do a plant every 25 square feet instead of every 100 square feet.
Okay.
And I did have a conversation quickly with Matt about the trees becoming wetland trees in the upland areas. And he said generally in that whole area, as Greg stated, that the trees are basically sitting on a high water table. If not truly wetland area, it's pretty close. So they should not have any problem, for the most part, adapting in moss to creating the wetlands around them. And that was from Matt Morrow.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Bob.
Jack Rabbit, how do you feel about are you prepared to vote? If you're not prepared to vote, what changes would you like to see?
I am not prepared to vote. I agree with Richard. I'd like to see the replication plan, and I would like to get a tree count. And yeah, and I think that, I know we've walked the property once, but I would like to, you know, I know that we had markers and I know they've just been moved. If we could somehow walk it again and see where the road is going, and perhaps get some sort of a sense of what that 20-foot swath is going to look like.
Thank you, Jack. Jeff Viviano, how do you feel about, are you prepared to vote? If you're not prepared to vote, what changes would you like to see?
Prepared to vote tonight.
Katie Childs.
I personally want to wait to vote on this, just similar to Rich was saying. Just going with our bylaw, seeing the number of trees that are coming out. We usually ask that of applicants anyway, especially on a project this scale. So I personally would like to wait.
Thank you, Katie. I personally would be prepared to vote because I'm not sure that replacing these trees makes a lot of sense. You know, to me, when we pass the tree part of our regulations, I wasn't thinking about driveways. I was thinking about lakefronts and edges, you know, of wetlands. Not about driveways, and I'm not sure that our tree regulations make a lot of sense for driveways. It sounds to me, based on the straw poll, Greg, that we better continue to the 21st, and you better come up with a tree count and some kind of a tree plan, and as long as you're at it, throw in you know, a statement about you know, your wetlands planting density. How do you feel about that, Greg?
Well, really doesn't matter how I feel, kind of Joel feels.
Joel, are you willing to have us continue with this till the 21st?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, thank you. I'm looking for a motion. Does anybody have anything to add before we vote on this continuance? Then I'm looking for a motion to continue to the 21st.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Call vote. Richard Bursch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Vivian,
Aye.
and I for myself. Thank you, Greg.
All right, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
And thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
All right. Pursuant to Mass General Law, on Section 40 is amended, the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by the Town of Lunenburg for replacement of the bridge of Flat to 878 Flat Hill Road. I'm sure we have people here for that. There's Olivia. Olivia, you have the ability to share your screen, and Dan, and so we had some asks. A lot of communications to answer those asks. Take it away.
Second while I set up here. There we go. Okay. Thanks for letting us present tonight. This is on the Flat Hill Road Bridge Replacement Project for the Town of Lunenburg. As mentioned, my name is Olivia Richards. I'm the structural engineer with VHB. I'm joined tonight by Dan Canada, who is our wetland scientist, and Dave Cloutier, who is our water resources engineer. So as we stated in the last hearing, we were discussing a couple of points about the control of water measures that we would require the contractor to have. Also, the flow rates to expect coming from Catacomb Brook during the drawdown period. And then also an estimated construction schedule for the contractor. So last week we forwarded a memo to the agent, Matt Morrow. Hopefully he had forwarded that around and the commission was able to review.
Yes.
Great, great. So a couple of things we addressed in there was the control of water concept, what we would be including in our construction specifications that the contractor would have to adhere to. This is going back to our control of water measures, which consist of essentially using sandbags to isolate the construction zone, using bypass pumping to keep the flow around the construction zone and to maintain a dry construction zone. And then also in bold print in our construction specifications requiring the contractor to have a pipe on site and to anticipate any flow rates that exceed the capacity of his bypass pump and to be prepared for these situations. The other issue that we looked at, we received the flow rates from the Lake Shirley Association. A huge thank you to Joanna for forwarding those to Rob. Dave had looked at those flow rates and included them in his previous analysis, which included the USGS data, and use these flow rates to determine our control of water. And then also for the construction schedule, as I mentioned at the last hearing, we have not put this project out to bid. We have not, we don't know who the contractor will be, but we have performed many similar culvert replacement projects, and I've included a construction schedule that was based off of a similar project that was performed a couple of years ago. But again, this is just based on what that contractor did and the timetable he was able to perform this project in. We can't say that this contractor would adhere to the same schedule, but we absolutely can hold them to seasonal restrictions or anything else that would be of concern to the environment and water flow.
We also received a copy of a memorandum from the Director of Public Works about the construction schedule. Sorry to interrupt.
Nope, great. Nope, that's great. So unless my colleagues Dan or Dave have anything to add, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments from members of the commission?
Mr. Chairman?
Jack.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find too many screens. I'm reading in the contract data that says the contractor shall select a pump or pumps capable of diverting at least 25 and preferably 50% of the flow during construction. And then they should also have on hand culvert pipe to flume flows through the work site. How quickly could they do that?
In the case of, so if we were anticipating, like, I guess during the period of time that we've been performing this, there could be a hurricane or unexpected rainfall. That would be something we'd have a bit of a heads up. They'd have to make arrangements, set up a bypass pipe, and clear the work zone for that period of time. I think one thing we mentioned in the memo is that the structure type we selected, which we call a clamshell, the bottom half of it is installed and then the top half of it. So once that bottom half is installed, we have an open channel to provide for flow. So it would really be in that short period of before the bottom part, the box culvert is installed, and after they've demoed the existing culvert, that would be that period where maybe a bypass pipe is needed if there is some unexpected heavy rainflow coming.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Chairman, over to Jeff. Jeff, was that like 70% or 80% of the water that goes in Lake Shirley comes through through this brook?
I
Catacomb?
did some research. Yeah, about 2/3 of the water that comes into Lake Shirley is under that bridge. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if we get 3 or 4 heavy days of rain like we just had, I bet you there's a lot of water moving right underneath that right now. And basically,
Well, in the last few days, the lake's come up about 6 inches.
yeah,
So that's a lot of water. Yeah.
it's a ton. And where they're only scheduling 50, looking at a 50% support, I guess perhaps could they respond that quickly to within 2 days, have another pipe laid in and everything
Well,
else?
I think my personal opinion on that is in the winter months, I think they have a pretty good shot at it.
Yeah.
When the lake is drawn down. But if we do get like a heavy rain event, like a nor'easter, they're definitely going to have that culvert pipe installed pretty quickly. Yeah. So.
Good point. It is during the drawdown. Yeah. So less.
Any other comments or questions? You have more comments, Jack?
No, I'm good.
Jeff, did you have anything to add here?
No, that was about it. I think, about, like I said, about 2/3 of the water comes under that bridge that comes into Lake Shirley. And that's just my only concern. But I think if it is done during the winter months, during the drawdown, hopefully we don't get that nor'easter coming through with rain, and they don't have to set that up, because I think a lot of sediment will be coming to the lake if that does occur.
Any other comments or questions from members of the commission? Any comments or questions? Oh, Richard Bursch.
Thank you, Bob. Do you, and forgive me, I've kind of looked through and can't find anything. Do you have a lake level at which you're looking to mobilize? I know you're talking about doing it at low water. Is there a lake level that it has to be below for you to begin mobilizing and construction in the contract?
I guess it would kind of come down to constructability with the contractor, because they would set up the sandbags and then need to pump the construction zone dry. So low enough to allow for that. And then low, if there's any other environmental concerns, we don't want to disturb any vegetation or wildlife in the area. So if there's
the contractor can possibly be in a condition that the lake has come back up and he sandbagged it on the outflow side, and we have a rain event and he sandbagged it on the inflow side and is moving the entire volume of water over the project.
Correct. Sandbags at both ends, and then if there is a rainfall event, I'd imagine that pipe down the middle of it, or our open channel bottom part, the culvert's installed, and we are channeling water through there.
All right, and you yourself are reasonably confident that you've structured this, that will take place, or that will be able to take place? A contract will be prepared for that contingency?
Yes, I believe we've required all the information that was available to us and set up the project in that way that the contractor should be prepared for what could come at him. We've put out similar projects. We've had some culverts where we don't have the luxury of this drawdown period, where it is lower levels to deal with, and they've set up a porta-dam and then have to continuously pump out the groundwater in their site to keep it dry, and open up an open channel to allow flow through. I mean, and that was another small bridge project. We're not talking like huge budget, huge construction site on that one. So they are prepared for these types of conditions, and we spell it out for them. And then also, as I mentioned, is they have to submit to us a control of water submittal where we can review exactly what their means and methods will be and make sure that they would be adequately prepared for what we are requiring.
Okay, and are you on retainer or contract throughout the project for oversight?
We have not signed up. That would be the plan. We are currently working on the Pleasant Street bridge with Lunenburg, and we did sign the construction phase services for our oversight right before we started construction. We don't have that contract in place yet for the Flat Hill Road Bridge, but I assume we would proceed in a similar manner. We definitely would recommend to be on board for construction oversight and submittal review.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Any other questions or comments from members of the commission? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Andrea Adams.
Thank you for allowing me to speak on this. Just back to the Pleasant Street project, I'm happy to report that it's coming along nicely. The one thing I would say is, even though I was a party to the Conservation Commission hearing on that one, you may want to do a little bit of outreach to the immediate abutters on either side of the work zone. And, since this is a completely different project, that's fine. I'm just saying that the immediate abutters on my mom's side, which is up the hill towards West Street, he had his mailbox moved and it was cemented in place, and they took it out and moved it, and they did a very nice job. But he was like, "What are you doing to my mailbox?" Because it was on a concrete post. So just a word to the wise, if the people on either side of your work zone aren't already aware of what's going to go on and how long the work zone is going to be in length and what's going to happen there, you may want to have a courtesy, either the contractor or VHB or the town, whoever is the appropriate party, to just reach out to them and say, "Hey, this is going to be happening and this is the work limit. So you may want to consider moving structures that might be in the way of a guardrail," or in the case of the Lunenburg, the Pleasant Street Bridge, they put down not road tailings, but it was sub-base for the extended guardrail. And it didn't catch my mom unawares because I knew it was happening. But the guy on the other side was like, "Holy crap, what are you doing to my cobblestones and my mailbox post?"
Understood.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm looking, based on what I've heard, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Roll call vote. Richard Bursch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Again, we had a hearing last week and we don't have a Mullins form from Mike, so. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, entitled Protection of Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Mass Pleasant LLC will be held. Work proposes construction of a six slot subdivision, roadway, utilities, and proposed wetland crossing at 101 Pleasant Street. That was the ask. We received a letter today from the applicant requesting that we continue. And so I'm looking for a motion to continue until the 21st.
So moved.
Second. All right, roll call vote. Rich Bursch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Oh, sorry, you cut it out. Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. Yeah, I keep getting these messages across my screen that my internet connection is unstable. The next, if you look at the agenda, it says continued hearing, and it lists 3 of them. The first one is all set because we did continue that hearing till the 21st. However, the next 2 hearings we need motions on because they were actually continued until today. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 1, Section 40 is amended, and under Lunenburg Protective Bylaw, Chapter 335, the Lunenburg Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a notice of Cynthia Ritchie for work at 137 Flynn Road to build a natural stone wall along the waterfront to protect against future erosion of the edges of the land and beach. I'm looking for a motion to continue until the 21st.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Richard Bursch.
Aye.
Katie Child.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
And I for myself. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 31, Section 40 is amended, and the Lunenburg, Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a request of determination at 90 Rue Street by Brian Dalmaso will be held. The work proposed is addition of sand to a beach. I'm looking for a motion to continue until the 21st.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote. Richard Bursch. Is Richard with us? Yes, he is, but he's muted. Well, we'll come back to Richard. Katie Childs.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
I for myself. And that was that. That concludes our public hearings for this evening. We're not going to do enforcement tonight because we have no agent with us. And so we're going to skip over enforcement. New business, election of officers. Richard, are you with us? He must have stepped out.
Sorry about that. Nature called.
That's what I sort of figured, but I wasn't going to say that. I like to do election of officers. We have to elect 3 officers. We have to elect the chairman, vice chairman, and so I'll open the floor for nominations for chair.
Mr. Chair, I would like to nominate Bob Pease as chairman.
Do we have a second?
I would love to second that.
No, we have a second. Do we have any further discussion? Call vote. Patty Adams. Patty Adams.
Muted.
Yep, sorry, I was muted.
That's all right.
Aye.
Thank you, Patty. Richard Bursch.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Mike LaRouche.
Aye.
And I will also vote aye. Thank you, guys. This is a lot more work.
Congratulations, Bob. You're doing a great job.
Well, thank you, Richard. It's a lot more work than I ever thought it was going to be.
Yes, it is. I can agree with that.
I'd like to open the floor for nominations for vice chairman.
I would like to nominate Mr. Richard Bursch as our vice chairman.
Do we have a second?
The Lunenburg Conservation.
I second.
We have a second from Mike LaRouche. Roll call vote. Patty Adams.
Aye.
Richard Bursch.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Vivian.
Aye.
Mike LaRouche.
Aye.
And I for myself. Richard, I don't know what I would do without you.
Well, you might find out at the next meeting. I'm hoping to be in Fairbanks and hoping they have a little bit of internet up there.
All right. The last
Thank you
position
very
we
much.
have is clerk. It may The role of clerk, the clerk really has two roles. One, they take and they look over the minutes of the meetings, but I always do that anyway. But the other role I have is when both Richard and myself are not available for a meeting, they are the chair. Given Richard, the fact that both Richard and travel a lot, that could happen. And so everyone should understand, what the clerk does. So I'd like to open floor for motion for nominations for clerk.
I would like to make a motion to nominate Jack Rabbit as for the role of clerk.
Mr. Rabbit, thanks you
Can I-
very much, but he will decline. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Katie. Sorry, no. Out of the minutes, I'll do other stuff, but no, but thank you so much. I'm
The
good.
chair, I'd like to nominate Jeff Viviano for the position of clerk.
I will second that. Okay, do we have
Okay. Are you guys going to be absent? Both together at the same time?
It could happen. I have a major trip coming up in then next April, we're taking the whole family to the Caymans for a week, so.
Okay.
Plus when my grandchildren are here, I don't do meetings when my grandchildren are staying over, so.
Me too.
Okay. I mean, my only concern is I've kind of taken on a little extra duty at work, and I may miss a couple of meetings in the next few months.
We all miss
but-
meetings from time to time, Jeff.
Yeah, so I mean, I would definitely be happy to take on a role.
So roll call vote, Patty Adams,
Aye.
Richard Birsch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
I'll vote aye for myself.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
and I for myself. At last night's selectmen's meeting, the chair professed that they had not received a formal request. He didn't think that they'd received a formal request to survey 192 Townsend Harbor Road, when in fact I sent him and Heather a letter saying that we had a vote of the commission, to request that survey. So I will reiterate that with Tom and Heather. But the reason I have this, I also like us at the same time to ask them to survey the sidelines of the Cowdery lot where it goes, where we have the access to the handicap platform next to the A-frame. We received as part, when they redid that A-frame, as you know, we just did a hearing on that A-frame. We got a plot plan for that, and but that plot plan was prepared by Soil Smith people. They're not certain. And basically they were working off of a stake on the other side. So I'm looking to get it surveyed because I'm hoping to improve that so we can provide meaningful access, to that handicap platform. The snowmobile riders did a great job of building a handicap platform back there, and most of the time you can't get to it unless an amphibious vehicle or something. So, I'd like to improve it, and, if we're gonna start, doing that, I think we need a good idea of where the sidelines are. So I'd like to add to the request. I'm asking for a vote to add to the request for survey to, put stakes, permanent stakes, at the sidelines there. So I'm looking for a motion, to approve that.
So moved.
We have a second.
Good idea.
Second.
Roll call vote, Patty Adams,
Aye.
Rich Birsch.
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
and I for myself. I want to schedule a public hearing to amend the land use plans for Table Rock and Lane property to eliminate the state or special permit is required to bow hunt, on those properties. And so I don't know if it needs a vote or anything. I just let know that I expect, to schedule at public hearing, as soon as I see a time when, our hearing schedule gets a little lighter. We disposed of a lot of things tonight, but, and we don't have that many new applications coming up that I'm aware of. So, maybe at the next meeting and maybe later.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We might be able to actually talk about the definition of a tree.
Oh, that's true. That's
tonight,
true.
it's
We
not
can
on the
put that back on the
Who
agenda.
could forget that?
Yeah. Thank you, Katie.
40B project at 318, 390, and 400 Howard Street for 200 units of rental housing with possible site visit. The site visit's been rescheduled. I think you guys are on else from Heather. And the site visit was rescheduled until later in July. It's my understanding you will hear the application for as representing the state for their application under the Wetlands Protection Act, that we will hear that. If you take and you go to the site, if you go to that link that was in the original thing, you download you get a big zip file containing about 20 documents. If you haven't done that already, the most interesting documents are the preliminary site plan. Shows that they plan to put a parking lot between 50 and 100 feet buffer. They have nothing inside the 30, nothing inside the 50. They have like a barbecue area and considerable amount of parking lot between 50 and 100. Another interesting thing is the zoning analysis. It lists all the waivers they're going to need, to local bylaws. And another interesting is the housing. There's a housing summary that shows, how many units are 2-bedroom, how many units are 1-bedroom, how many units are 3-bedroom, and how many of them are going to be low income, or I'm sorry, affordable. How many of them are going to be affordable? To me, the interesting thing about it is in there's a eligibility for there's an eligibility form for sustainable development, and for it to be sustainable development, the form asks, are you within a certain distance of either the town center, so you can rejuvenate the town center, or in a growth area? Well, it's not that. And are you within a reasonable distance to facilities like transportation, shopping, and all that other stuff? And they got no all the way down the line. So I question whether the project is even. And interestingly, the form requires an explanation, and they didn't give any explanation on that form. The other thing I wonder about is that they include the water district in their submission, and the water district's not part of the town. So I don't really understand how they can do that, but I'm sure other people will worry about that. There is anyone here interested in going to, oh, so the other two thoughts I had on that is, I can see where we might ask them to move the building so that the parking lot is not within the buffer zone. I could see where we might do that. And I could see where we might appeal to the ZBA to require them to transfer parcel in the back, which they said they were going to give to donate to the Conservation Commission as part of this application, and not make it a separate action, to be done later, since they're developing the property. Those are my thoughts and observations on this 40B application. Has anyone else looked at it? Richard Bursch. Rich, go ahead, Rich.
So they have yet to submit to the Conservation Commission.
They have not submitted to the Conservation Commission.
Okay. Yeah,
Because
they still have to go through the standard Wetland Protection Act and DEP regulation review that the Conservation Commission has authority of.
That is my understanding, based on, I read, there was this document that, Heather sent out, which is like a guide to 40B, for boards and commissions kind of thing. And in reading that, it said that they have to go through us, for compliance with the Wetlands Protection Act. But our bylaw does not.
Correct. Yes, they are still under the jurisdiction of any state permit or permitting authority, which the Conservation Commission is a state permitting authority. Unless it's changed recently, they do need to submit an application for review. We just cannot apply the bylaw and the regulations that were generated under our local bylaw authority.
And it's my understanding, and again, I could be wrong, that the first, before they do anything else, is get a something from the state housing agency that it's an eligible project, that it
Correct.
qualifies as 40, before they do anything with the town boards or anything else like that.
Correct. So at this point, we're not under any need to go on the site walk specifically, as if they do come before us, we could certainly require and ask for one at that time when the plan is truly submitted.
That's true. And I was asking, I was talking with Adam Burney, I was saying, should we be, given that that's true, that we got to pass that later, does that mean though that we shouldn't still be submitting our suggestions and comments, as part of the comment period, during their initial, application process to establish their eligibility. And and Adam Burney didn't have a good answer to that. That would be a good question for Adam Costa.
Yeah, and have they submitted to the ZBA an application?
No.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge, the answer, no, and it's my understanding, again, it's just an understanding, I'm not positive, that they can't do that until they've been approved for the program, by the State Housing Authority.
Yep. Okay, thank you very much.
I have no update on the Trails Grant. Any other comments or questions about the 40B? I'm not really planning to going on that site walk. I am planning, after I discuss it with Adam Costa, coming back to the commission, and maybe we're going to submit comments. There is requests to establish program eligibility. I have no grant except to say I got to get my butt in gear on that. Committee reports, any committee reports?
Hopefully we'll have a stormwater committee meeting in another week or so.
Okay. Administrators determinations, we're not going to do that without Matthew here. Is there any other business to come before this commission tonight, other than public comment at the end? Jack Rabbit.
Some guidance. I have my property has a pretty decent slope. I'm always fighting with the erosion. I've always got gullies and things going on.
Are you talking about by the lake or by your house?
On the lake, moving into the lake. So the other day, a big log comes rolling through. I grab it, I pull it up and I'm drying it. And I'm saying, am I in violation if I cut that log to fit between my rocks to stop the to slow the erosion down? Is that something I would go and come to the board before? Or is this just passive throwing rocks down, similar to throwing rocks down to stop it from eroding? I am within 100 feet. I'm doing something with it, but I'm not changing the grade.
I think that's a question you should ask Matt Merle.
Okay. The log just rolled
unless someone else wants to weigh in here.
Rich?
He's who I had in mind.
Okay, I'll ask Matt.
Okay.
I'll get an administrator's determination. It just seems like a good way of stopping the erosion from getting into the lake, and and there's a log.
Geez, it must be getting late out there. Aren't you guys ready to adjourn?
Yes, we are. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Any public comment from members of the public? Got 2 members of the public with us. All right, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
At 9:53, we're getting better.
What is that, 3 hours were you, Rich?
4. It's 10 minutes to 6. Michelle just put dinner on the table.
All right.
Just
So,
gotta,
Patty, it's a roll call vote. Patty Adams.
Aye.
And thank you for participating in your first meeting.
Yes,
Richard
it was a
Bursch.
pleasure.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Mike LaRouche.
Aye.
And I, for my, ask, just because I want to know, I'm going to ask Adam Costa about if you guys could have voted if you had filed Mullins forms on those other hearings.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Night, folks.
Good night.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Fly safe.